This episode is proudly supported by Pepe Sayer Australian Cultured Butter, batch churned from single origin cream.
Like any good product, you have to start off with an amazing cream. Like for us, it's the raw material that matters. So where we get our cream from matters a lot. So we can't just buy your average supermarket grade cream. So you need real cream. You need basically the stuff they skim off the top of milk at a farm. And to get that product, we have to go to the farmers direct. So for us, we have to source our cream very carefully. We travel a lot to different farms to make sure that the cream we're getting is the real deal from different areas of Australia.
For more information, go to pepesayer.com.au.
My late grandfather used to always say to me, Amber, be a leader and not a follower. And that's always stuck with me. And I always just kind of take a step back if I'm feeling overwhelmed about a competition or anything, have a big deep breath, think about what my pop said, and then keep going. Like, you don't get anywhere without hard work and dedication.
We absolutely love celebrating young talent on the Dirty Linen podcast, and today that is exactly what we're doing. Our guest is Amber Heaton. Amber is a chef at the Star on the Gold Coast. She's also captain of the Australian Youth Culinary team. She is an absolute gun, sweeping up competition prizes all over the place. Amber, welcome to Dirty Linen.
Hi, Dani. Thanks so much for having me.
So good to have you on the show. And you sent through your resume and I just kept scrolling through all these incredible achievements of yours. Let's start with a recent one. You were in South Australia and you scooped the prize at the Chaîne de Rôtisseurs competition. Tell us about that and this whole competition approach in general.
Yeah, so I competed at the La Chaîne de Rôtisseurs on Tuesday, and there was 8 competitors. We had 4 hours to produce a 3-course menu. It was all mystery box, and we had to, produce a 3-course menu. I chose to use the barramundi and oysters in my first course. We had beautiful lamb loin and lamb ribs for our main, and then I chose to use the apple and figs for my dessert.
I mean, you make it sound pretty straightforward, but I mean, what is it like to be in a cooking competition?
I love it. I love the drive I get from it, the adrenaline you get. I meet so many people along the way, from whether it be judges, mentors that are there on the day, fellow competitors, and I find like I'm continually learning when I'm competing. It's very different to being in the kitchen cooking in a restaurant, but I love the drive I have for it and all the connections I can make.
Well, give us some highlights, because you've been doing them for a few years now and, travelled widely.
Yes, I think definitely like the biggest highlight for me was recently obviously winning La Chaîne, and then 1 week prior to that I competed in the Bocuse d'Or Australia and won the Silver Knife Trophy with my commis Abby Cannell. Abby also won Best Commis Chef, so I've been training her and mentoring her, and she's an amazing young chef. So I think both of those back-to-back competing this year has been definitely a highlight, but also I competed with the Australian Youth Culinary team in Luxembourg in November, and there we won a silver medal and a bronze medal, so very proud to be able to represent Australia alongside some amazing other young chefs.
So good. What have you got your eye on next?
So at the moment, next I'll be competing at the La Chaîne de Rôtisseurs internationally in Turkey, in Istanbul in October, and then a couple things along the way hopefully, but a bit under the radar at the moment, and you'll see it pop up on my account over the next few months, and then also training with the junior team for the Culinary Olympics in February next year.
Oh, amazing. I mean, do you find that the work that you do in competitions gives you skills that you can use in restaurant kitchens as well?
Yeah, for sure. Like I find I've always been a very clean and tidy person in the kitchen, but I find when you're competing, because obviously half your marks do come from your kitchen work, I find now that I'm so focused on competing at work, you're a lot more organized. You're making sure your knife's always straight on the board. Everything's always aligned. There's no crumbs on the bench. And it just makes you more attention to detail with how and what equipment you're using in a kitchen.
And what about the culinary side of things? Because often competition food, it's pretty highly worked. It's very elaborate. It looks incredible, but maybe not like the food you might often encounter in restaurants. What about that side of it?
Yeah, so a lot of the competitions, like I do, like a lot of the World Chefs competitions, you want to make sure that you've got like balanced protein, you're looking at starch, your vegetables, your sauce, how they want to know, like, you know, is it nutritionally balanced, and just using like a wide range of foods. Like when we go overseas, I like to use like Australian native products, try and introduce them to the judges and just show them like, you know, what Australia is about and how diverse we are as a country.
And do you have anyone that really helps you along the way with all these competitions?
Yeah, so I have a few mentors at work. I have a friend over that's now living in Spain, Matt Lee, so, and also Caroline Helmy at the Star Gold Coast. I have obviously all of the Australian culinary team that helps me, the likes of Karen Doyle, Patrick O'Brien. Yeah, and I'm very lucky to have like, especially like my family's support, especially like my mother. She's been my rock this year, just really helping me with running around, getting equipment for me, helping me weigh up stuff, and, you know, just traveling with me along the way to Melbourne and South Australia.
Oh, that's so nice. Is your mum really into food?
Yeah, that's how I kind of got started in food, was like my mother's side of the family is Italian. And so, you know, obviously coming from an Italian background, we all love our food. And just being brought up around like the cooking of Nonna and my mother, it's very homely cooking, but it's amazing to see, you know, whatever's in the fridge. Like it was a big thing was like, you know, during COVID, you know, everyone was buying everything from the shops, but, you know, Mum was all stocked up in the pantry, in the fridge, in the freezer, whether it be schnitzels, there'd be canned items, there's passata. You know, Mum would always make something out of it, and she really is a truly inspiring woman.
That's so great. So, I mean, what about taking that step into professional cooking? What was it that made you want to be a chef?
I think, well, I was in year 10 at high school and I had to do work experience. So I decided to just choose a local restaurant nearby. I did work experience and loved it. So then I decided, you know, I'll work there for a couple of years as a kitchen hand. And when I got to year 12, I was like, you know, I felt comfortable I'd be able to manage starting my chef apprenticeship. So I started my chef apprenticeship halfway through doing year 12. And then once I graduated year 12, I went full-time onto my apprenticeship and, yeah, qualified 2.5 years ago. And here I am still in the industry and loving it.
That's great. I mean, what are your views on the industry? There are so many different aspects to it. Do you find it, I mean, do you see problems in the industry? Do you see things that you'd like to change?
I think I've been very lucky, like where I am at the Star Gold Coast. Like I have had a lot of support during my apprenticeship there. I started as a second year at Star, and since starting there, I have had a lot of support. It's been really great, like rotating through the outlets every 3 months. But I think, you know, there is definitely a lot of businesses Australia-wide and overseas that are a lot harder, and people can't get as good of experience as what I've had. But I've been very grateful through my short career so far, really grateful where it's taken me.
And what about being a young female chef? Have you had any particular challenges?
I wouldn't say I've had many challenges being a young female chef. I think just with potentially my age, I'm only 22 and I have been in the industry already for 8 years. So I think me being so young, sometimes people would underestimate me or don't think that I do know as much as what I do, which, you know, I don't know everything. I have so much more to learn and can't wait for the future of what's to come. But yeah, I just don't like being underestimated sometimes with age. But being a female, I haven't really had too many issues. It is a male-dominated industry, but I would love to see more females coming forward and, you know, pursuing an industry in hospitality.
Well, I mean, it's fantastic that your commie in the Bocuse d'Or is also a woman. I think, especially in competitions, it does tend to be very blokey. So it's fantastic to see you putting yourself forward in that arena.
Yeah, no, it's great. I love to see all the women striving and everything. Like, in the Australian youth culinary team, out of the 8 of us, we have 6 are female. So that's great to see as well.
I don't think I know much about the Australian Youth Culinary Team. Tell us who that is. What do you do? How do you find out about it? How do you get into it if you might want to?
Yeah, so we're a fairly new team. The first competition we competed at was the Luxembourg Culinary World Cup in November. So we're currently a team of 8 chefs. Some are apprentices, some have been qualified like myself already. So I captain the team, and next we're going to be competing in Germany in February at the ICA Olympics. So just anyone who's wishing to apply is just to go onto the Australian Culinary Federation website. You can apply there to Patrick O'Brien, and I think it's definitely something if you want to get into competing and you do have a good past, even with competitions. I think it's good to push yourself and be in a team where, we all have the one goal is to do great and win gold overseas.
And what do you do about the pressure of competition? Like, how do you deal with that practically and emotionally?
I think obviously, like you said, the pressure is very big, and sometimes it definitely does get to anyone. We are all human, but I think just trying to I find just taking a step back, breathing. My family, I am very lucky for their support and always giving me good advice. And I always think it always brings me back and grounds me is that my late grandfather used to always say to me, Amber, be a leader and not a follower. And that's always stuck with me. And I always just kind of take a step back if I'm feeling overwhelmed about a competition or anything for that matter in the industry. Take a step back, have a big deep breath, think about what my pop said, and then keep going. You don't get anywhere without hard work and dedication.
I love that. Because, sometimes I've seen competitions and let's say the chefs they've run out of time, they're over the clock. And you think, how does that happen? Because they would have stepped it through so many times. But I guess, there's just that pressure of the moment means that things can really get away from you.
Yeah, for sure. There's many factors in a competition. I'm sure anyone listening here today and who's done competitions before, there could be problems with your ovens, there could be problems with blast chillers. That's the biggest problem is stuff not freezing in time. But, as chefs, we learn to adapt. We learn to, create new things if there is an issue that has come up in a comp, and all you can do is try your best. I mean, if you give 100%, that's all you can do.
Is this, just picking up on that blast chiller factor, are there some elements or ingredients or, equipment that you would really try to steer clear of when you're planning and training for a comp?
I think when using molds and that a lot of the time you do need to set whatever item in a blast chiller. So I think if you don't have enough time in a competition, I try and steer clear of using a blast chiller. But if you do rely heavily on one, you need to be adaptable and make sure, before you go into the competition, making sure that, if for some reason something does happen on the day of the comp with your blast chiller, are you going to be able to turn it into something else and still be able to get a dish up? So I think that's really important within menu planning, and when you're practicing prior to a competition is factors, that could go wrong. And if it does go wrong in your practice or on the day, how will you, change your workflow or change your dish and still be able to get up on the plate what you wrote on your menu?
Yeah, that's very clever. And are there any ingredients that you, if you've got one of those mystery box scenarios, are there any ingredients you'd open up, you'd be like, oh no, or conversely, oh yes, I'm going to smash this?
I think I love to work with fresh seafood. That's definitely something, if I see seafood in a mystery box or as a mandatory ingredient to use in a competition, I love that. But then also I would be very worried if we got stuff like liver or heart or something to cook with brains. I would be pretty freaked out about that because I haven't really worked a lot with that sort of stuff. But I'm sure I'd be able to adapt and create something if it came to it.
Yeah, where's the Australian Offal Olympics coming up?
Yes, can you imagine?
Maybe we'll get there. We should all be using those secondary cuts and odd bits. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can start something. Amber, as you say, you're only 22, but you've had so much experience. What are your hopes and dreams for the future?
So I hope to keep traveling the world while I can. Just to keep competing internationally, representing Australia, and then eventually down the track in the future, I would like to open my own culinary school and be able to teach, share my knowledge to younger students and even just home cooks who want to come out and learn some dishes that they can produce at home and feel comfortable in the kitchen when cooking.
Oh, that's such a great ambition. I thought you were going to say, I want a little trattoria where I can imagine cooking the pasta that I grew up with. But no, you've got very different ambitions.
Yeah, no, definitely. It hasn't been a goal to open a restaurant. I more want to teach people and share my knowledge that I've learnt through food and how I've been brought up around my family. Just want to share the knowledge.
I love that. And in terms of skills, I mean, a lot of people talk about a skills drain in hospitality, that perhaps some of the culinary training doesn't equip students for professional kitchens. And at the same time, kitchens are so stretched, they use a lot of bought in, pre-filleted, pre-prepared ingredients. Where do you see all that going?
I think it's definitely very hard for restaurants at the moment with labour and obviously such a big shortage, like you said, in the industry, and restaurants having to buy in, pre-filleted fish and stuff already made like pastas and that. But, it is really important, as a chef, when you are doing your training, to learn, your precision cuts and especially where your ingredients come from, knowing I'm a very big believer of, I love supporting local suppliers and local farms and dairies and seeing actually where your produce comes from. I think that's really important as a chef to know, where are your ingredients being sourced from and why do you want to use them on your menu and have a purpose.
Wow, love it. Amber, incredible to catch up with you. I cannot wait to watch your star shine. Thank you so much for sharing with us today at Dirty Linen.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is Dirty Linen, and I'm Dani Valent. We air the issues that the hospitality industry finds hard to talk about, hearing from different people with unique perspectives. We want to hear from you as well. If you have something that needs to be said about a topic, get in touch so we can include your perspective. Contact us at dirtylinen@deepintheweeds.com.au or hit us up on Insta at Dirty Linen Podcast. We can't wait to hear from you.